You don't want to
Um,
get me started. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're coming up in 5. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I've got so many of you coming in from all over the country, all over the world, and I'm so glad that you are here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel so that you can see us live and in living color. I don't want you to participate in the conversation with my morning stars. Hey, Ashley King down there in Memphis and Andre here in Chicago. Bernadette, where are you? Like and share, everybody. We've been talking about DEI. I don't know about you, but we've had whiplash. It seems that President Trump couldn't even get to the inaugural balls. He was signing these executive orders. He has been going. And it has really been disconcerting for everyone because in between the California wildfires, the storms in in North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee, and just the shootings down in New Orleans and on and on, just every day it's something new. And now you've got the government moving at tremendous speed, but a lot of things are happening. But let's talk about DEI. But you know what? This gentleman told me we need to kind of go to the root. DEI is the fruit. Really got to look at affirmative action, everybody. We have to look. We have to know what we are looking at. You got to know what you're looking at because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 really opened up America for everybody, as did the Civil Rights Movement. It just did. And while many of you, as I've been in conversation, you've said, look, white women benefited the most from DEI, from affirmative action. That is true. That is true. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that does not mean that you turn away from the benefits that you accrue. Don't do that. That having been said, I don't think many of us are as clear on what affirmative action is and how we've benefited from it and how the eradication of it, the abolishing of it, how it hurts us all, and particularly it hurts and hits black and brown people first, and most profoundly, black people first. We're the only group in America who cannot pass into whiteness after a generation or so. Never, ever, never happens. They're even debating whether or not J. Edgar Hoover had black blood, and he did. I mean, but that's a game changer in America still, the color line, right? So let's talk about this. What about DEI? What about affirmative action? Because affirmative action was effectively ended by the Supreme Court um, in the sphere of education on the public and private side, North Carolina and Harvard. They said, no, we're not going to have affirmative action anymore. What does that mean? Now we're watching the numbers go down as fewer blacks are being admitted to the Ivies and eventually into the public Ivies because now you have a lot of public universities that are top tier and you have black colleges that are getting their due. And there's a lot going on here. So I said, well, let me go to this brilliant man. He deals with racial and economic justice. And he's someone who's been on this show before, Dr. Algernon Austin. I'm always so glad to have you from the Center for Economic Policy and Research. We have got to have research. We've got to have data. Because when we look at the data, when we look at the research, companies and institutions that put DEI into practice, that have affirmative action policies, they make more money, they're more successful. But that story's not getting out. So, everybody, meet me on Blue Sky at santitajackson.bsky.social, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, Bernadette. Hey, Robert. Hey, Ashley. Sending you all so much love. Please like and share, and go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That's the only place where I can accept friends. And then, of course, I'm at Santita J on X. So we welcome you back to the show, Dr. Austin. When I saw all of these stories about DEI coming through it now, the White House has removed the Spanish language portal from their website. And if you try to find the Spanish language portal, it says go to homepage, go home. You can't. Woo, these people,
Wow, wow. Yeah,
look,
so
I love it. And when I say
there
I love it, I love honesty. Just tell me. Gee whiz. But I have to laugh to keep from crying, right?
exactly. Exactly. So it's a pleasure to be here as always. And as you mentioned, there's so much coming at us right now. There have been so many executive orders. It's really hard to keep track. And there are multiple layers of different things. So there was an anti-DEI one, there's a one that's directly attacks affirmative action, eliminates affirmative action. And there are so many things to talk about. It's hard to for me to focus. But let's talk about the one that's
Would you?
titled "End."
How do you want to start? Do you want to start at DEI? Do you want to start at? Well, let's start at the headline, and then let's go back.
Okay. Yes.
Because you said everybody's talking about DEI, but we need to go back to the root. You're right. But since everybody's talking about DEI, let's talk about it. What is it, and why, and what is it an outgrowth of? Why don't, is that work for
Yeah.
you?
So well, it really came from affirmative action.
Okay.
So there was the
However you
uh,
want to begin.
yeah, there was I think it was the Baki case, and the Supreme Court said, okay, you can't have strict quotas, and you could only use affirmative action as a consideration to basically to for the diversity, for the benefit of the diversity. So it was a Supreme Court decision, not not a decision, importantly, not a decision of activists, not a decision of Black activists. The Supreme Court says, you're pushing affirmative action as this sort of reparative justice move. We reject that. You can
Hmm.
only have affirmative action to enhance diversity. So that action by the Supreme Court caused the field to move to this diversity language and this diversity framework, which is fine, but it's also importantly more expansive, right? Because you can have diversity on lots of different things. It's not simply, hey, we want to address racism in American society. So when you're addressing diversity, then um, religion, sexual orientation, a whole bunch of other things can come in, and that's good. I'm sorry, there's a phone in the background, and
Mhm.
that's good. America should and our institutions should serve the American people. They shouldn't be limited to any particular group, etc. So that's diversity. And diversity, equity, and inclusion are a broad range of programs. This is one of the problems when you get expansive is that people can do all sorts of things. But what it's trying to do is to make sure that we create spaces, workplaces that are inclusive, that bring in Americans of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, etc. So it tries to set up policies to bring in everyone, to make sure that the labor force is reflective of American society. So really, it's like what's to object. Now, unfortunately, there have been, I would agree, there have been some programs under DEI that were poorly conceived of. But the goal is to have our federal government, to have our workplaces reflect America, America, reflect the American people. So it's really bizarre that you are president of the United States and then say you are opposed to the idea of having the government and the workforce reflect American people. You know, it's just like well then who are you? And so there's a question, and let's go I'll go to the repealing of Lyndon Johnson's executive order that established affirmative action. So
Mhm.
there's a question with Trump when they said "Make America Great Again." You know, for many Black people, it's like, well, when are you trying to go back to? You know,
Because I don't want to go back there
and
to Jim
if
Crow and sharecropping and slavery and right.
I am so glad that you mentioned Jim Crow because this executive order ending quote unquote ending illegal discrimination that ends the that eliminates and ends Lyndon Johnson's executive order. Now let me read part of Lyndon Johnson's executive order. This is for federal contractors. If you're doing with business with the government, you're, according to this executive order, you will not discriminate against any employee or applicant for employment because of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. Now, notice it says will not discriminate. Trump just eliminated this. Trump just, the anti discrimination executive order, Trump's got rid of. So it is now, people need to understand this. It is now legal to discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, etc. Because he just got rid of the law that's saying you can't do it. So he has in fact put in place the first brick or the first step. I don't know what to call it, but the first piece that takes us back to Jim Crow. You know,
Mhm.
in 65, Lyndon Johnson said, we're going to end discrimination in the federal government. And Trump just said, no, I want to go back to the days before 1965, when it was perfectly legal to discriminate against people based on race. That is exactly what he just did. And they are extremely aggressive about this. They have turned the federal government, they have, within this executive order, they're requiring the federal government to go after the biggest corporations. It's not just the federal government. They are going to investigate and monitor the biggest uh, companies, associations, foundations, etc. They have required the federal government to go after the largest of all of these organizations. So they are really
So
forcing
what?
people.
So what do you mean by that? To go after them
They
and
will be investigated. They will be investigated to make sure that they are not doing any diversity, equity, and inclusion activities. Anything, let me correct, anything that the federal government can define as diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they define all sorts of things as diversity, equity, inclusion. So this is really going to put a damper on every single effort to address racial discrimination in American
well,
society.
let me ask you
Every
this.
single effort.
So does that mean that they would be questioning all black hires in particular, all brown hire women?
They
Well,
can.
wow.
They can. Yeah. So you wanted numbers. So I did an analysis before, just based on Project 2025, and as people have noticed, Trump during the campaign said, "Oh, I know nothing about Project 2025. That has nothing to do with me." And then when you look at these executive orders, hey, that's in the Project 2025 playbook. He's working with the Project 2025 playbook.
Hmm.
So right now, I'm estimating we can see potential devastation to the Black middle class in Washington, D.C. Uh, we can expect, I would guess, at least 8,000 uh, good middle class black jobs in Washington, D.C. that will be gone. And let me also say this gets
Eight
back to
8,000.
8,000.
Wow.
8,000 in this area. That's the immediate effect. The other thing, this does many of the people implementing diversity, equity, and inclusion are Black professionals. So those jobs are going to be gone. But more broadly, the Trump administration, the federal government employs, I forget, I think it was um, maybe over 1 million workers.
Mhm.
Um, this is going to have ripple effects in every state because there are federal employees in every state. I don't have the numbers right in front of me right now, but the Trump administration and their efforts, I think, will make it a very hostile environment for Black workers throughout the federal government. Um, so uh, this is uh, this is a real blow to the Black middle class broadly.
Well,
Um,
as this is a blow to the black middle class, um, I want to know where else this goes, because it seems like this is, it's going to go viral, right?
yes,
And
yes, and it's
so,
designed to do that, right? Because
okay.
Trump has authority. He has direct authority over the federal government. And let's see, the federal, I found some numbers. So the federal government was in 2023 was over 2 million. And I did a very conservative estimate, you know, I think it'll be more than this, but a conservative estimate, if you estimate a 5% loss uh, of the Black portion of the total, we're talking over 100,000 Black jobs that Black people have. We can expect to see gone, but that's a conservative estimate. I think it could be more than that. If we allow him, let me just say that so that people aren't totally depressed. This hasn't happened yet. It's a matter of whether we allow him. But I think if he's allowed to do what he wants to do, we will we probably will see at least 100,000 federal Black federal workers losing their jobs. Um,
Wait, 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 wait. 'Cause that's a huge number. I need you to say that one more time. Hey, Eric Burrows from LA. Hope you're safe out there, sweetie. Laura Bell, how you doing? How many black jobs will be lost?
right. So the I mentioned there's a couple million people in the federal employment. About 18 uh, percent of those people are Black, federal workers. Um, if we assume that with their desire, with Elon Musk and others to slash the federal government, if we assume a conservative 5% reduction, we're talking of over 100,000 uh, jobs that are held by Black people will be lost. And I think it's fair to say that it would be more because the agencies that they're particularly don't like, the programs that they particularly don't like, are the programs and the agencies that have disproportionately Black employment. So, for example, let's just start with DEI.
Mhm.
The people administering DEI programs are disproportionately Black people, and those programs are in the process, well, have
Oh,
been
they've been ended.
shut down in the federal
Yeah.
government. So that's already, I don't know how many hundreds of Black people who have just lost jobs. But you're right, it's not limited to the federal government. And that's why this aggressive monitoring of the largest private, not government, but private employers, private associations, private foundations, um, what it's meant to do is to make sure that the administration's reach extends way beyond just the federal government by saying we are going to come after all of the big universities and look at them and make sure that they're not doing anything that we decide is diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're going to shut down every, not just every DEI program, but every hire, as you mentioned. People are going to be like, well, if I hire this Black person, is someone from the Trump administration say that I have engaged in quote unquote discrimination against a white person?
Or if I hire too many.
Yeah, yeah. So again,
So if my
we are
workforce
back.
looks like America, then you are making an effort to be diverse. You're making an effort to have equality. You're making an effort to be inclusive. That's against the law. So we're going to come after you. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, exactly. So the best way to cover yourself is to have a workforce that is overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly heterosexual, overwhelmingly Christian, um,
And male.
and, and male. Yeah,
But wait, wait,
uh,
wait. Because I think we've got to look at
and
Pete Hegseth.
overwhelmingly MAGA, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have enough MAGA Republicans, then you're engaging in discrimination.
Well,
Right?
I mean, but I have to look at Pete Hegseth because the more I hear about him, the more unsettling he is. I mean, because there is his former sister-in-law said that he did not even feel that women should vote. He's already said, and that's not a bridge too far because he's already said that women should not serve in combat. Even though you've got a U.S. senator who's a double amputee because she served in combat and saved people's lives. Um, and he's been charged with all manner of awful things. And he would be in front of her in the employment line because this also impacts people, women. It impacts physically challenged people. I would think
Exactly.
the
Yep.
people who are hearing impaired. I mean, most of America, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
again, I found the text. Yes. So they're going to each agency. This is in the executive order. Each agency. So I guess that's all the major federal agencies. Shall identify up to 9 potential uh, civil compliance investigations. So they're going to go after at least each agency should has to identify 9 targets. And this includes publicly traded corporations, large nonprofit corporations or associations, foundations with assets of $5 million dollars or more, state and local bar and medical associations, institutions of higher educations with endowments over $1 billion. So this is going to really put a damper and really hurt, um, like you said, anyone who is not white and male and, you know, wearing a MAGA hat is under threat because, we've already seen the large corporations, have went, a few notable large corp have gone down to Mar-a-Lago and have, kissed the ring. And because they're afraid of the Trump administration coming after them. And I think many other corporations will do the same.
I want to know from you just, I mean, because I don't think that that's really being emphasized. The the fact that this is going to impact private life, that
Yep.
this will impact corporate America, and not just the Fortune 500 companies. Um, getting hired in your grocery store, right? I mean, the
Yes.
businesses. I mean, getting hired at the Home Depot, Menards, wherever. I mean, all of that. Where we, I mean, because I think Dr. Algernon Austin, I think that we do take for granted the strides that we have made in American society.
Mm-hmm.
Far
Mm-hmm.
too often we hear, "Oh, we haven't gone far. We've made no progress." I'm like, "Oh no, honey, wait a minute. Wait. You don't have to drink from a colored fountain.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. I was born in a colored hospital. I was, because I was born, before 68, 67, 66, 64. That's like the cutoff point. I was born in the L. Richardson Hospital for Colored Women in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I might have been a Negro when I was born. I'm not quite sure. I have to look at the birth certificate. But I mean, I'm just saying, you guys, it's not that far away. It's not. So when you go into these stores and when you see women who are able to go to the bank and get your own loan and buy your own home. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my aunt, may she rest in peace, my aunt Evelyn, who was a teacher who had a spectacular reputation. Um, she was newly single. She had two children, very stable. Just gotten a raise as a school teacher. But guess what? She could not get a home without a male cosigner. A male cosigner.
Mm.
This is in the like 73, 74, 75, right? I
Wow.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
these things, our lives have changed a lot. And what you're telling me, Dr. Algernon Austin, is that we could be going back. The Center for Economic and Policy Research, you deal with race and economic justice. Whew. What you're telling me is that everything that LBJ put in place, this great society, that with a stroke of a pen, well, with a stroke of a pen, he put it on, and you're saying with a stroke of a pen, this was wiped out.
Yes, yes. It's been there since 1965. Think about that. This has
Mhm.
been Republicans, Democrats, everybody has said this is, we this is we have to abide by anti-discrimination. There's no question that the federal government won't engage in discrimination. And Trump says, no, we can discriminate if we want to. This has been around since 1965. Many Republican administrations have said, we will abide by this. You know, there was debates and quibbling, but everybody upheld Johnson's uh, executive order until 2 days ago.
But and
Um,
it seems that they are dismantling this very quickly.
very quickly. It's so that we don't fully appreciate everything that's going on. Like you said, we talked earlier. It's really hard for me to keep track of everything that's going on. I stumbled upon there's the Office of Gun Violence Prevention that the Biden administration created, and that's really important. Gun violence in the United States is 10, 20 times, I think it's like 10 times what it is in Canada and like 20, 30 times what it is in Europe. So, but the Biden administration says, let's try to address this problem. That office is gone, right? It's like, who, who said we have a problem with gun violence? Not the Trump administration.
Oh boy. I mean, but there's been this debate. I think that we have to step back, Dr. Austin, and see where we are, and where we should I say where we've been heading. Because to me, Trump is who we are. I mean,
Mm,
Kamala Harris got 48.6% of the vote. He got 49.8% of the vote. So when you're hearing the sweeping mandate, and no, it wasn't quite that. Where you saw the sweeping mandate was in the Electoral College. because he got more votes in
Yeah,
those.
but that's
And
not
he's
representative of the people. It's the
no,
it's
no,
the voters, right?
no, but that's my point.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm saying, because they're not making that distinction in corporate media. They're just telling you, oh, he has a mandate, and no one challenges him on that at all. No one challenges him. But even then, with all that he has been through, he did remarkably well,
Yeah.
because there is a great unrest in the American body politic, and in our society just in general, because I just had a listener who said, I went to Walgreens, this was just a few days ago, and I paid $8 for a dozen eggs.
Hmm.
I had the Democrats telling me things are getting better. So, well, let me tell you, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but trust me, it's not that bad. I'm like, but my debit card declined because I didn't have enough money to buy the groceries. Uh-huh. I mean, there, and then you have the University of Chicago, you went to Northwestern, and it's close to this.
Hmm.
The University of Chicago undergraduate is $100,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
100. Oh yeah, and when you go over there, it's not a campus that's teeming with even white Americans. Increasingly, these premium American educations are out of reach for Americans.
Mm,
Even the public Ivies, if you are a state resident, it's not cheap,
hmm.
right? So, and black people, since they have eliminated affirmative action, it's just been a few short years, everybody, just a couple. You're seeing a marked decline
Hmm.
in admissions to the Ivies, to the public Ivies. There are not
Hmm.
enough spots at HBCUs to absorb these black students. And quite frankly, many of these white students don't have the scores because our schools are not as competitive as they need to be, Algernon Austin. Dr. Austin. So while black people are getting hit first, eventually everybody's going to get hit. But we're going to get hit first and the worst.
Yes. Yes.
So, so where do you see this going? Because I don't
Well,
hear the
I
conversation.
I I am I I have hope because I don't think while Trump had a very slight majority
Right.
of the votes, I don't think that he actually has the majority of American people supporting him. I think people voted for him for, like you said, I mean, the inflation shock, I think, was a big issue that people, as you mentioned, people, you know, were upset, frustrated, disturbed by the high prices. But they, what they voted for was, hope that Trump could lower prices. I don't think they voted, the majority of Americans voted to have us go back to before 1965. And I think once, if we make it clear that that's what the Trump agenda is, then I think we can change this. I think we can block this. I think we can turn this around. So it's really important for us to call this out, to really identify that this is this is someone who's trying to reestablish Jim Crow. Lyndon Johnson ended discrimination, and he just ended the executive order that ended discrimination. In other words, he just said it's okay to have racial discrimination in the federal government.
But
And I
but
don't
this is,
think,
but see, wait a minute. Hold on. See, this is the rub. I was talking with my cousin who's extremely successful, and sadly in that society, this means in many respects that she's like the only black person or one of the few black people in her space, like you. That's sadly that's how it works, right? He said, you know what? Something interesting has happened to me. I said, what's that? I just spoke with her just before I came on the air a couple of hours ago. She said, I get the sense, and she's with the progressive, liberal, Hollywood crowd, blah, blah, blah. And she said, people have said to me more than one, Trump is not that bad. Yeah, meh, MEH, meh. I said, yeah. I said, I'm not surprised. And I said, you do know many of them, if not most of them, voted for him. Now, the rainbow voted for Kamala. The white bloc voted for Trump. But then he got a chunk of black men. He got the overwhelming majority of Latino men.
Hmm.
Um, and remember in 2016, the toggle was between Trump and Bernie because Americans are in so, I saw this in a movie once. We're so thirsty that we can be in a desert, and if we see water, it might just be a lie. It might be a mirage, but we're gonna run toward it because Americans need some real change, and they want someone to bring it to them, right? And so I'm trying to find out from you. I mean, because I still do have hope because I think this is going to make us really appreciate the gains that we've made, and it's going to make us fight. Those of us who've gotten very comfortable, Dr. Algernon Austin, as we've gotten comfortable, we are accustomed to being able to. I went to Howard. Put on your nice outfit, you have your professors and everybody helping you with your CV, and you go and interview, and you're going to get that job if you. No, that's not going to happen now.
Hmm.
Then now,
Hmm.
I guess, I mean, the way you're describing this to me, that they're not obligated to go onto these campuses, certainly not to HBCUs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that could easily be considered the DEI. So no. Uh, and I forgot where I saw it, but there was some federal program where they hired recent grads from the top law schools, and these folks had already got accepted into this program, and they found out, probably today or yesterday, that no, they're not going. They might.
What do you mean? They're not.
Yeah, there was some program, some government program where they're trying to bring graduates from the top law schools into the federal government. And the Trump administration just ended that. So people who already were accepted into the program just got told, no, don't don't bother coming.
You
I
know
mean,
what?
these are like Yale Law, Duke Law,
And
Freddie saying, I'm ready to serve in the federal government, and Trump saying, no, we don't want you. Why doesn't he want them? Because he can't guarantee that they're MAGA. He only wants people who are going to pledge allegiance to Trump. And these graduates from these Ivy League universities, he doesn't know that they're going to actually, worship Trump and not instead of the Constitution. So he tells them to stay home. Don't come.
well, I mean, but it's I think we have to be careful because it goes beyond MAGA. Because a lot of
Hmm.
people are not wearing the MAGA hat, but they have that in their hearts. Because it's more than. I mean, it's more than MAGA. A lot of people are not being honest about how they voted and why. And I guess, for me now, this is going to be the impact. A lot of people, when you tell me that 100,000 black people will have jobs that are middle and upper middle class jobs, because that's what I mean. That have these are the jobs that have enabled these folks to send their kids to the finest schools.
Hmm.
Number one, they've been able to send them to school. They've been able to buy nice homes. They are the comfortable people, and you're telling me they're about to. They have already. We just haven't seen it yet. The rug has been pulled out from underneath them. They've got one or two more pay periods before they're going to be laid off.
Hmm.
I mean, fired. That is
Hmm.
astonishing.
Yep.
Do you
Yep.
know what the numbers? I mean, is it the same? Are we seeing the same thing hit white government workers or no?
I think there will be a significant number. This is speculation on my part, or more speculation. I think there will be a significant number, but again, Trump, the administration, it does have an ideological litmus test, and if you are willing to, you know, to work for Trump as opposed to work for the Constitution, then you can save yourself. And looking at as you just talked about the voting demographics,
Mhm.
there are more Black people who, are not going to sign up to do Trump's bidding as opposed to doing the bidding of the American people. And there are more, the MAGA movement is a disproportionately white movement. And yeah, so I think that um, probably fewer whites will, proportionally. I think let me say that many people in the federal government, and actually, I would say the vast majority of people in the federal government are there because they want to serve the American people. So
Yeah.
I do think a lot will leave. But I think a lot of the whites who leave will be replaced by whites. And a lot of
Oh
the
yeah.
Black people who leave will also be replaced by whites. you know, so
Whew. And you're saying that this you're going to start this in the federal government, but this is going to echo into all
yes,
facets of our lives, in the all
yes,
facets of in the private sector, and that's what
yes,
this is designed to do.
yes. It is already clear that they are going to go after private sector companies that have any large private sector company that has any DI program um, will be investigated for supposedly engaging in quote unquote illegal discrimination.
What do we? So where do we go from here? I mean,
Well,
because I can see that the economic impact I cannot even fathom. I mean, just before we go into where do we go from here? I mean, now that we're here, where do we go? I mean, what does this mean? Will people lose their homes? I mean, what's next? I mean, do you call? I mean, is there like what a 401k program that you have with the government? I mean, just in practical terms, what does this mean?
yeah, it's gonna hurt. And at the individual level, yes, it's gonna hurt. But again, we're not there yet. So I don't think we should treat this uh, yet as if it has completely happened. I think if you work in DEI, it has happened, right? But I think the broader impact to the federal government, um, well, yeah, things aren't looking good. So, um, yeah, people are gonna lose jobs. They're gonna lose homes. They're gonna have difficulty sending their kids to college, etc. But the other thing, I mean, the things that the Trump administration is doing are there are having negative economic effects already. So, for example, they don't like the Biden administration's bipartisan infrastructure law. So they passed some regulation, I forget what it is, and they accidentally stopped all federal like highway funding, like all, because people were saying, I don't know if what I'm doing is against the law. So I'm just going to do nothing. So I'm not going to disperse any dollars to the states. And the states, I'm not going to spend any more dollars. So I may be in the middle of building a bridge. I'm just going to stop because they don't know what they're doing, and they're just like, Biden did this. Let's try to mess it up.
So, okay.
but that's a lot of money. That's a lot of economic activity, and a lot of that is going to red states. So now they're trying to back up and repair the damage that they've caused. But the broader point is that laying off people hurts the economy. There are so many of his proposals that are going to have bad economic impacts, and people were frustrated economically, and we saw a shift to Trump because of their economic frustrations. But if Trump increases economic frustrations, if he causes many people to get laid off, if he stops uh, uh, the flow of dollars into red states, then people are going to, demand change and demand that he does something different. And so, as long as people, educate themselves about what's going on, and demand change, then there's hope. There's hope that we can stop the administration from doing the worst of its plans.
So you would recommend that we become vigilant. I mean, but first, what we need to do, excuse me, is understand what is happening here,
Yes.
because we most of that's not being described here. I mean, no one is talking about 100,000 black people, excuse me, losing these jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. We need.
But I mean, also the
And this.
white numbers, right? I mean,
Hmm.
when they're saying disruptors, because that's what he says he wants to be. Okay, I get that. But everything's going to get shaken up.
Hmm.
And a lot of people who I guess who have seniority, who are making maybe $100,000 a year or more,
Hmm.
that's out. And so when you look at the Department of Government Efficiency, the man who was overlooking regulations policy, Vivek Ramaswamy, he's out.
Hmm.
Now the person who's in charge of spending, and should I say spending and cutting, he's in. And what
Hmm.
he's trying to do is also what we're watching, also who's coming in are the tech bros, the people
Hmm.
from Silicon Valley. Just, for
Hmm.
want, I mean, just let that be a metaphor for, you know, Mark Zuckerberg and Larry Ellison, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they feel that there are too many government workers, Dr. Austin.
Hmm.
They think that AI should replace federal workers. So the joke is on everybody, because not only are they going to eliminate jobs, they're going to eliminate jobs, period.
Hmm.
How, what is the economic fallout? When you have an economy where people are not working, because that seems like that's where we're going. I mean, because they want to replace these workers with artificial intelligence. I don't know how that works, fake intelligence, which is like an oxymoron, but you know, how is that supposed to work? I mean, Dr. Austin, what's next?
Yeah, no, that's a real question. I mean, the other thing with AI is, and that people don't fully realize, is that it gives it gives an enormous power to the people who control it. So, um, not only are these people very wealthy, but they are going to increasingly control, more and more of the space, more and more think about AI. More and more companies are going to have their operations be integrated with AI, um, and therefore dependent on that AI that is controlled by, you know, there are what, maybe three or four companies, which means there are like three or four CEOs who, they don't just control their company, but they will be able to control all of the companies that are using their AI. And it's not just companies, it's the federal government will also be integrated in that. So the federal government will potentially be dependent on these particular companies controlled by a few wealthy individuals for the operations. And of course, with the other thing with these computer integration is that they have all your information, um, which is a tremendous amount of power and leverage over your entity, whether it's a public entity or a private entity.
When you say leverage, what do you mean?
I mean, it's like one, you know, people have talked about this in a way around Amazon, like the Amazon marketplace, is
Mhm.
that when you do all of your business, you set up shop on Amazon and you do all of your business via Amazon. Amazon knows who your customers are, what your prices are, your profit margin, everything. And then Amazon can say, well, you used to sell whatever, uh, and it was really profitable, and we want some of that profit. But we already have all of your information. So we know who your customers are. We know how to undercut your price. So we can take over your market share when we decide we want to. We can squeeze your business and
But they've done
say,
that with everybody.
yeah,
I
they
mean,
are doing
they're,
that with
they're
everybody.
doing it with everybody. I mean, when
Yeah,
you look
yeah.
at them, when you go to some place as simple as Walgreens or CVS, fewer and fewer products are on the shelves. But if you pull out your phone and go on Amazon, they're right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
that
But
dangerous?
similarly with AI, the companies running the AI will know your systems, be able to potentially manipulate your systems. Um, it's not quite a sort of ransomware situation, but it's potential. It's like if you are doing something I don't like, I can slow down your AI. I can shut that. I can make it more difficult for you to do your business.
Dr. Algernon Austin, mm, Center for Economic. I said, I'm just trying to keep my mind together because I feel like I'm slipping into some dystopian world here.
Yeah,
And it's
it does feel
happening.
like that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's happening really, really fast,
Hmm.
and we're not really having that part of the discussion. Um, and so, just because you've seen a lot down through the years, um, and the world has changed drastically, rapidly, and I think and part of this is really psychologically to disorient us, because you're thinking about the inauguration balls and you're watching this man in the Oval Office signing all of these executive orders and releasing the J6, prisoners and on. And I mean, it's just on. Everything's happening so quickly. Yeah, these jobs. I mean, the layoffs, the paid leaves is effective immediately. No, don't come into work in the morning. I mean, it's like that. So I just need to know
Hmm.
from you, just so I mean, so where is all of this going? I mean, we've been talking with you, Dr. Algernon Austin. I mean, you direct the projects on race and economic justice.
Hmm.
You're making me think of Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan, who fought for that, who went to
Hmm.
Dr. King and said, "You need the breadbasket project because we have effectively broken the back of segregation in America, but now we need economic justice, which is what we
Hmm.
came here on in the first place.
Yep,
So we've got to
absolutely.
get to work. I mean, and so what I love about the work that you've been doing down through the years is that you've never untied race from economic justice and economic justice from race and
Hmm.
racism.
Hmm.
And so I want to thank you for that. So, those of you and your colleagues at the Center for Economic and Policy Research, I just want to thank you for that because we really, really need that because they're tied inextricably to one another. And
Absolutely.
what did you say, correctional officer for the lockdown? You said Dr. Algernon Austin is brilliant. Yep, that's why I brought him to you today. So I mean, he does it with great humor. I would have taken that econ from you because you would have made me laugh. I think I would have liked it. But tell me, I mean, just so where do we go from here, Dr.
Well,
Austin? What are we looking at?
as you have said, we need to mobilize, we need to organize, we need to educate people. And as I've said, I don't think there was in the past election there was a bit of a shift to Trump, but I don't think that all of the Trump voters signed up for where he wants to take the country to. So we need to make sure that people who don't agree with taking us back to pre 1965 America, who don't think that's a good idea, stand up, make their voices heard, um, and sort of mobilize against it. I do think that if the American people, if enough of the American people say, no, we will not accept this, there will be change. But you know, it will require work and organizing and mobilizing and educating to get there. But we need to do it. We need to do it, or else we will find ourselves living back in Jim Crow America in the 21st century. Oh, you're on mute, so I can't hear you, Santita.
My father did say that, slave masters never retire. And when he said that, I said, okay, but that's true. They don't. And the monarchies that we were fighting 400, 300, 200 years ago, well, we're fighting oligarchies now. I mean, they just,
Absolutely.
they're just not to the manner born. But if you really look at them, they really are deeply connected because Elon Musk did not just drop out the sky or come out the ground. He's from a very prominent family, as is Jeff Bezos, uh, as is Bill Gates. I mean, all these people are deeply, deeply, deeply connected, and they're also, in large measure, government contractors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
That's the
know,
other thing that it's very frustrating that people aren't aware that these people are, benefiting
make
from the government while they're trying their darndest not to pay any taxes to the government.
women and to cut you out of it. They don't want you to get another contract, but they keep
Yeah.
getting
Hmm.
contracts. I don't
Yeah.
know how Boeing keeps getting contracts. They can't keep a plane aloft with you in it. But who am I? Who am I to say? But I tell you what, Dr. Algernon Austin, we're going to be watching everything, and we cannot wait to have you back on this show because I tell you what, you have lightened my heart about this. I mean, I'm not laughing at it, but it is making me. Um, I do feel very hopeful because I think that this is a time that's going to make us do the work and appreciate the work that has been done. When many of you say that things have not changed, oh no, they've changed a whole lot. And people fought. You didn't just march black people onto. I mean, now you take it as a given that you can have a Kamala Harris, that you can have a Hillary Clinton, that you can have a Barack Obama. Well, you know what? It was a black man who made that possible. A black man said, when I run, I will have a woman on the ticket. That was Jesse Jackson in 1984. Oh, yeah, Mondale did it, but he was doing it because there was then a movement afoot to put Jesse Jackson on the ticket because no one expected him to do as well as he did because he outlasted 6 or 7 people and became a top tier candidate the first time he came out. And so then a generation later, you get a black man. Then you get a black woman, you get a white woman who's running. But that's not enough, everybody. It's not enough to have these black and female faces in high places. We need real change. And you've got to continue to push for it. Yeah, the phenotype is important, but the philosophy is very important. I want to have you on a presidential commission on economics, Dr. Algernon Austin, because I need your perspective represented. That that is, I'm being very serious because I need the least of these to be represented. We're not going to grow unless your perspective, your research, your interpretation of the data is part of the public discussion.
Hmm.
Otherwise, all these jokers are going to storm the Bastille, and I'm going to duck for that. Because these people are so upset. And, and people should be, we have to engage in nonviolence and be creative
Hmm.
and think about the society you want, not the society that you want to tear down. So let's move toward that. Dr. Algernon Austin, thank you so much for your work, and thank you for being open to us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to, help people learn about what's going on. Because, and I hope that they share this information with others. Because, yes, only when people are aware of what's going on can we hope that enough people will mobilize to stop it.
Well, we can do it. I mean, the fact that you want us to mobilize, you're my kind of economist. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, the Santita Jackson Show.